Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly attract good fortune, while others struggle, despite trying just as hard, if not harder? This isn't just about luck. It's not always about hard work either. What if your thoughts and the energy behind them were quietly shaping your world while you weren't paying attention? What if the reality you experience is reflecting the mindset you carry, whether you're conscious of it or not? You're about to drift into a world where thoughts aren't just passive ideas floating through your mind. They're the architects of your experiences. The law of attraction, often brushed off as mystical fluff, may hold more weight than you'd expect. From ancient teachings to modern psychological frameworks, the connection between your inner landscape and your external results is stronger, and more practical, than it first appears. Picture this: you're standing at the edge of a still lake. Each thought you have drops like a pebble into the water, creating ripples that stretch outward, invisible to the eye but shaping the environment all the same. That's the image I want you to keep in mind tonight. Because those ripples, those thoughts, carry weight. And they don't just disappear. They echo. You probably won't know this, but long before The Secret turned into a pop culture phenomenon, early psychologists and philosophers were already experimenting with the idea that thoughts influence outcomes. We're talking about thinkers like William James and Carl Jung, people who explored the power of attention, intention, and meaning-making long before hashtags and Instagram reels. Before you settle in, feel free to like the video if it brought you a little peace, and if you'd like to join us again, we'd love to have you back. Subscribe when you're ready. No pressure, just rest. Share something if you feel like it. Let's slowly drift into tonight's quiet moments together. You think a thought. It might be tiny, "I'm so tired today," or massive, "What if I finally start that business?" Either way, the thought doesn't stay idle. It connects. It communicates. And if you hold it long enough, it starts to solidify. It calls other thoughts to it, forms mental images, and begins to sculpt the emotions that you feel. From there, it seeps outward, changing the way you act, react, and show up in the world. You don't need to believe in magic to understand this. Psychology has already mapped the connection between thoughts and behavior. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, one of the most widely used therapeutic models, is grounded in the idea that your thoughts determine how you feel, and how you feel determines what you do. You think you're unworthy? You'll act like it. You believe you're capable? Suddenly, so much more becomes possible. Here's something surprising: your brain cannot distinguish well between a vividly imagined scenario and reality. Neuroimaging studies show that when you mentally rehearse an action, like swinging a tennis racket, the same motor areas light up as if you're actually doing it. That's not just cool, it's powerful. Because it means your mind is already building that reality, brick by brick, even if you're lying perfectly still. Of course, there remains considerable disagreement about whether this alone proves that you can manifest a new reality purely through thought. Some researchers argue that it's more about creating internal conditions that make new actions possible, while others push further, suggesting that external synchronicities are influenced by intention. So what does this mean for you? It means your internal dialogue isn't just mental chatter. It's a script. And you're performing it daily, sometimes without even knowing it. Want to shift your life? Change the script. Rewrite it. Speak to yourself like you would to a younger version of you, gently, encouragingly, with a little nudge toward growth. It's subtle at first. You say to yourself, "I am calm." Maybe you're not. Maybe everything feels like a Category 5 emotional hurricane. But saying it plants a flag. It gives your nervous system something to orient toward. Your cells don't ask for proof, they start to follow the signal. Slowly, your breathing eases. You choose a softer response. You remember who you wanted to be in that moment. Did you know that researchers at Yale found that participants who wrote down their goals and intentions were significantly more likely to achieve them than those who didn't? The act of writing, of solidifying thought into form, makes a difference. It transforms idea into decision. Decision into action. Now think about the way you speak, not just to yourself but to others. Words carry energy. When you constantly joke that you're broke, or always single, or terrible with luck, your subconscious starts filing those statements away as truths. It doesn't question your sarcasm. It just obeys. That's why intentional language is one of the foundations of the law of attraction. It's not just positive thinking, it's purposeful speaking. Speaking as if the thing you want is already part of your reality. This isn't about delusion, it's about direction. Because every thought, every word, becomes a tiny vote for the reality you're building. An odd but true fact, in Tibetan Buddhism, there's a belief that repeated phrases, mantras, carry enough vibration to shift not just the mind but the physical world. You'll find similar traditions in Christianity, Sufism, even modern-day sports psychology. Repetition creates resonance. And resonance moves matter. So tonight, as your thoughts slow and your body unwinds, consider this. What have you been repeating to yourself lately? Is it kind? Is it expansive? Or is it a thought that quietly tightens your chest every time it returns? Your thoughts don't control you, but they do lead you. That's why awareness is the first step in shaping reality. The law of attraction doesn't begin with affirmations, vision boards, or crystals. It begins with you catching your thoughts in the act, and gently steering them toward the life you actually want. As your eyelids grow heavier, the real journey begins, not in the outer world, but in the inner one. Each thought is a small, silent nudge toward a version of you that already exists, just waiting for your attention. That attention, delicate as breath, is where the attraction starts. You wake up, scroll your phone, see someone posting about the dream job they just landed, and suddenly, without warning, you're noticing job openings everywhere. On LinkedIn, in casual conversation, even on that random coffee shop bulletin board you swear you've passed 100 times without looking. It's not magic. It's your reticular activating system doing what it does best, filtering your world based on what you've recently deemed important. This small but mighty network of neurons, nestled in your brainstem, is like the personal assistant you didn't know you had. It monitors the sea of information constantly flooding your senses and only shows you what matters to you. Your RAS, the Reticular Activating System, keeps you from going completely bonkers by ignoring most of what's around you and spotlighting what aligns with your current focus. The law of attraction hinges on this biological mechanism. Because when you set an intention, I want to find love, I want to start a business, I want to heal, you're not just putting it into the universe. You're also programming your brain to notice things it used to overlook. New conversations. New ideas. New people. New chances. That's the secret behind why it sometimes feels like things start showing up after you finally decide what you want. There's a well-documented psychology experiment that proves this beautifully. It's known as the invisible gorilla study. Participants were asked to watch a video of people passing basketballs and count how many passes they saw. Most were so focused that they completely missed a person in a full gorilla suit walking right through the scene. Why? Their RAS had filtered it out. It wasn't relevant to their goal. Your world isn't static, it's elastic. It bends, gently, to accommodate what you're focused on. If you believe the world is against you, your RAS will serve you up proof. If you believe opportunities are everywhere, guess what? It'll deliver those instead. A long-standing controversy surrounds the extent to which this internal filtering system determines external outcomes. Some scholars argue that you're simply more attuned, not more lucky. Others insist that focused thought carries energy that affects matter. Either way, the mechanism is the same. The more you focus, the more your reality aligns with that focus. But there's a catch, and it's a subtle one. The reticular activating system doesn't speak English. It doesn't understand sarcasm. It doesn't care whether your focus is positive or negative. It just obeys repetition and emotion. So if you're constantly saying, "I'm tired of being broke," or "I hope I don't mess up," your brain hears, broke, 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 and mess up, mess up, mess up. It's like putting the wrong address into a GPS and then wondering why you didn't end up where you wanted. Here's a quirky little tidbit. In one experiment, when participants were told not to think about a white bear, nearly all of them reported doing just that, repeatedly. It's called ironic process theory. Your brain can't not think about something once it's been emotionally flagged. So when you say, "I don't want to fail," your RAS latches onto failure and starts highlighting all the ways that might occur. The solution? Focus your thoughts on where you do want to go, not where you don't. Instead of, "I don't want to be alone," say, "I'm attracting meaningful connection." Instead of, "I hope I don't screw this up," shift to, "I'm becoming more confident every day." It feels unnatural at first, maybe even cheesy, but your brain doesn't care about cheesy. It cares about clear. You may even start to notice a sense of effortlessness in some areas. Not because you're not working, but because you're no longer working against yourself. The path feels smoother. The timing, better. The support, easier to find. That's not just coincidence. That's alignment. Let's bring it back to your everyday experience. Ever started researching a new car, and suddenly that model is everywhere? You didn't summon the cars from thin air, they were always there. But now your brain spotlight is focused. That's how intention works. It doesn't create everything, it simply unveils what was already possible. And that unveiling, once you get used to it, becomes addictive in the best way. You might find this surprising, but high-level athletes often train their RAS without even knowing it. They visualize their performance repeatedly, see the goal, feel the win, walk through the moves. That rehearsal cues the RAS to filter distractions and focus only on what matches that success. It's not fake. It's focused. The same goes for your goals. You don't need to believe in the mystical version of manifestation to use your brain's filtering system like a pro. You just need to choose your intention clearly, repeat it often, and reinforce it with real emotion. Emotion, we'll get deeper into later. But know this, the stronger the emotion behind your thought, the more loudly your RAS listens. It's like turning the volume knob up on your inner vision. The louder the signal, the harder it is for your brain to ignore it. So tonight, ask yourself gently, what am I telling my brain to notice? What am I rehearsing? Where is my focus pointing the flashlight? The most subtle shift in focus can cause a domino effect. And the reticular activating system? It's your silent partner in that ripple. That shift in perception leads us into something deeper next, how feelings act as the emotional amplifier to your intentions. Because your thoughts may send the signal, but your emotions carry the charge. You think a thought. That thought generates a feeling. And that feeling, well, that's the real juice behind it all. It's not just what you think, it's how deeply you feel it. Emotions are the fuel source behind your intentions, like wind in the sails of your mental ship. You could have the most beautiful, detailed vision board on your wall, but if the emotions behind it are lukewarm, it's like trying to bake a cake with the oven off. Not much is going to happen. When you feel something, joy, excitement, love, hope, your body responds chemically. Neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin begin to circulate. Your nervous system relaxes or energizes, depending on the tone. And your energy field shifts in response. Yes, you have an energy field. Your heart, for example, emits an electromagnetic field measurable up to several feet outside your body. So when you feel something deeply, it isn't just inside you, it's surrounding you. Here's a fun little known fact. The Heart Math Institute has conducted decades of research showing that the heart's electromagnetic signal is significantly more powerful than the brain's. When you feel emotions like gratitude or compassion, your heart rhythm becomes coherent, smooth and orderly. And this coherence, they argue, influences not only your internal health but your external experiences as well. And that's not fringe, it's felt. You've noticed how some people enter a room and it just feels good. Others walk in and bring a kind of thundercloud with them. That's emotion radiating beyond words, shaping environments without a single sentence spoken. In mainstream psychology, the Broaden-Anbild theory of emotion, proposed by Barbara Fredrickson, suggests that positive emotions expand your awareness and help you build long-term psychological resources. Joy, for example, makes you more creative. Love builds social bonds. Hope increases resilience. These aren't soft, fluffy feelings. they're essential building blocks for change. But the issue has sparked significant intellectual debate. Some scientists challenge whether positive emotion alone can shape external outcomes or whether it's simply changing your subjective interpretation. In other words, are you attracting better experiences, or just feeling better about the same ones? Honestly, does it matter? If your day transforms because you're operating from joy instead of dread, then the experience has already changed. And over time, that shift isn't just internal, it ripples outward. You treat people differently. You notice new options. You say yes to things you used to decline. That's how change takes root: emotion first, action second. Now, think back to a time when something amazing happened to you unexpectedly. Maybe a phone call arrived at just the right moment. Or someone offered help when you needed it most. Chances are, if you trace it back, your emotional state before that moment was open. Maybe you were finally relaxed, or you just let go of something that had been draining you. That's not a coincidence. That's emotional alignment opening the door to possibility. Here's something unusual. In traditional Hawaiian healing practices like Ho'oponopono, healing begins with emotional purification. The belief is that clearing emotional static removes blocks in the outer world. The phrase, "I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you," isn't just a mantra, it's an emotional tuning fork. And many who've used it report dramatic shifts, not because they made the outer world change, but because they tuned their inner world first. Emotion is a broadcast signal. The clearer and stronger it is, the more noticeable the feedback becomes. Ever had a day where you were just in the zone, happy, relaxed, feeling like yourself, and everything seemed to click? That's not accidental. That's coherence. And when you're in coherence, intention flows freely. Now, let's get a little more practical. If you're trying to manifest something, more peace, a better job, deeper love, the emotion behind your intention is the active ingredient. Thinking, "I want a new job," while feeling desperate, panicked, or bitter creates emotional static. But thinking, "I'm ready for work that energizes me," while feeling excited or grateful, that's clean fuel. Your subconscious mind responds to feelings more than words. If you say, "I am confident," but your body is full of tension and fear, your subconscious will respond to the feeling, not the sentence. That's why aligning your emotional tone with your intention is crucial. Did you know that many Olympic athletes use a technique called emotional anchoring before competing? They recall a specific moment when they felt powerful, confident, or unstoppable, and they associate that emotion with a physical cue, like touching their heart or clenching a fist. In high-pressure moments, this anchor pulls them back into the state they need to perform. You can do the same. When you're setting an intention, add emotion to the mix. Close your eyes. Imagine what it would feel like if that intention already came true. Feel it in your body, warmth in your chest, a smile forming, shoulders relaxing. That's the energetic signature you're sending out. That's what the universe, or at least your subconscious, will follow. Of course, emotions are slippery little things. Some days you feel great, and others, well, you'd rather hide under a blanket and not speak to a single living soul. That's okay. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being aware. Catching the emotion before it steers the ship. Naming it. Nudging it. And sometimes just sitting with it until it softens on its own. Emotional intelligence, at its heart, is the art of aligning your feelings with your focus. And when you do that consistently, even in small ways, things begin to click. So tonight, as you breathe slower and your mind begins to drift, consider this. What's the feeling behind the future you want? Is it peace? Excitement? Freedom? Whatever it is, let it rise. Let it sit beside you. Let it color your thoughts. Because in the landscape of intention, emotion isn't just a background color, it's the brush itself. You've set an intention. You've paired it with feeling. And now, what exactly are you sending out into the world? Let's talk about energy. Not the caffeine kind. Not the, "I only slept 4 hours" kind. We're talking about the energetic signature you carry, moment by moment, that subtle frequency created by your thoughts, your mood, your body language, and yes, even your belief in what's possible. You may not see it, but you do feel it. You've probably walked into a room before and instantly sensed something was off, even though nobody said a word. Or you met someone who gave you good vibes right away, even if you didn't know why. That's energy in motion, your nervous system responding to the invisible data being broadcast around you. This is where the law of attraction takes a deeper turn, into what's often called vibrational frequency. The idea is simple: everything vibrates. Your thoughts, your emotions, your words, all carry frequency. The lower the frequency, think fear, anger, guilt, the heavier life tends to feel. The higher the frequency, like love, joy, gratitude, the more open and fluid things become. Now, whether or not you buy into energetic frequencies in a literal sense, you've definitely felt the difference between being around someone who's grounded, warm, and present versus someone who radiates anxiety like a Wi-Fi signal on fire. That's real. From a psychological standpoint, we know that moods are contagious. Research into emotional contagion shows that people unconsciously mimic the emotions and energy of those around them. You frown, I frown. You laugh, I soften. You panic, I tighten. It's not just empathy, it's entrainment. Here's something quirky: physicists have found that even tiny particles, when observed, behave differently, a phenomenon known as the observer effect. It's one of those eerie truths from quantum mechanics that's often stretched way too far in the name of self-help books. But it does suggest that consciousness, at some level, interacts with reality more intimately than we thought. There remains considerable disagreement about how far this interaction goes. Do we shift probabilities? Do we influence outcomes? Or are we simply adjusting our perception so drastically that it feels like the world is changing? The debate rages on, and yet, in your lived experience, when you shift your energy, things do feel different. Let's break this down in human terms. Ever notice how when you're in a great mood, things seem to work out better? You miss the bus, but the next one comes faster. You lose your keys, but someone finds them for you. It's not that the universe is suddenly rolling out a red carpet. It's that your openness allows you to respond rather than react. You're tuned to a frequency where opportunity gets noticed instead of missed. Now flip that. When you're low, frustrated, tense, spiraling, you could walk through a door of gold and not see it. You interpret smiles as sarcasm. You turn small delays into cosmic insults. Your vibration, in those moments, acts like static interference, jamming the signals trying to reach you. So here's a little exercise. The next time you're setting an intention, something simple like, I want more clarity, or I'm ready for a peaceful home, check your energy. Not just your words. Ask, does this feel clean or chaotic? Am I speaking this from lack, or from trust? Do I feel open, or am I pushing? You might find this surprising, but the Institute of Noetic Sciences has spent years studying how intention and consciousness affect physical systems. While their findings haven't landed in mainstream textbooks yet, some experiments suggest subtle influences, especially when intention is paired with coherence and clarity. Is it conclusive? No. Is it compelling? Absolutely. Even if you set aside the fringe science, there's still power in the metaphor. Think of yourself like a radio tower. You can only attract what you're tuned into. If you're on the everything sucks frequency, guess what you pick up? Static. If you shift to things are unfolding for me, you start catching signals that feel very different. Let's also acknowledge something important here: you can't fake energy. Not for long. You can smile while simmering inside. You can chant affirmations while gritting your teeth. But your body knows. Your nervous system knows. That's why aligning intention with true emotional honesty matters more than pretending everything is okay. Here's an odd but true detail. Studies have shown that even plants react to emotional energy. In experiments with lie detectors, yes, lie detectors and plants, some scientists really don't sleep. Researchers observed changes in electrical activity when a plant's leaves were threatened or when people directed loving attention toward them. It's not conclusive science, but it raises a fascinating point. What if everything really does respond to intention, even on the smallest scale? Let's bring this back to something tangible. When you're trying to attract something, better health, deeper connection, more peace, it's not just about imagining it. It's about embodying it. You act as if you're already living in the energy of that thing. Want more calm? Practice stillness. Want abundance? Practice generosity. Want love? Become the version of you who feels lovable, now. Not because you're faking it, but because you're tuning into it. This is why so many teachers of manifestation talk about the importance of being a vibrational match. It's a fancy way of saying, carry the energy of what you seek. Live now in the state you imagine your dream will bring you later. Because that's the signal. That's the magnet. And it doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't need a crystal grid the size of your coffee table. Sometimes it's just sitting quietly, hand on heart, whispering, I am becoming. Sometimes it's drinking your tea with the peace you want to feel. Sometimes it's a small, quiet choice to believe things are shifting, even if you can't see it yet. So tonight, as you settle into stillness, notice your energy. Not your posture, not your to-do list, your actual frequency. Does it feel hurried? Heavy? Hopeful? Curious? No judgment. Just observation. Because when you learn to feel your frequency, you can change it. And when you change it, the world doesn't just react, it reflects. That sense of energetic alignment, when your thoughts, emotions, and actions start dancing to the same rhythm, will carry us gently into the next part of your journey, the delicate balance between belief and doubt, and how both try to claim the wheel. So there you are, thoughts aligned, feelings warm, energy humming like a cat on a windowsill. And then, a whisper. A wobble. A tiny little, but what if it doesn't work, creeps in, uninvited but very familiar. Welcome to the ongoing tug-of-war between belief and doubt. The push-pull dynamic that makes or breaks manifestation, and keeps therapists booked solid. You want to believe. You try to believe. Sometimes, you do believe, until your brain starts quoting that ex-friend who said manifestation was just spiritual bypassing, or that coworker who got laid off right after printing out a vision board. The doubt doesn't arrive loudly. It's more of a slow drizzle, subtle, annoying, and very good at soaking your confidence. Here's the deal, belief is the green light. It says to your mind and your energy field, we're doing this. Doubt, on the other hand, is the foot on the brake. The tension between the two doesn't just make you feel stuck, it actually slows the process. Why? Because your subconscious doesn't know which direction you're choosing. Mixed signals lead to mixed results. Psychology has a name for this kind of internal contradiction, cognitive dissonance. It's that uncomfortable mental clash when your beliefs and your actions don't match. You say you want love, but deep down you don't believe you're lovable. You declare you're manifesting abundance, but you still cringe every time you check your bank account. That tension sends out confusing energy, and makes it very hard for you to stay consistent in your actions. You might find this surprising. One study from Stanford showed that people who were primed to believe in their own efficacy, that their actions could lead to results, persisted longer at difficult tasks and ultimately performed better. The key wasn't intelligence. It wasn't skill. It was belief in their own influence. An odd but real-world illustration of this comes from placebo research. In clinical trials, people who take sugar pills often report improvements, not because of the pill, but because they believe they're being helped. That belief triggers physiological changes, releases endorphins, and alters perception. Your brain becomes a pharmacy based on suggestion. A long-standing controversy surrounds how far belief alone can carry you. Can it change your health? Your luck? Your love life? While many agree that mindset plays a role in outcomes, others argue that over-relying on belief can lead to magical thinking and disappointment when life doesn't comply. Still, even skeptics agree, believing something is possible changes your behavior, and changed behavior changes your life. But let's not pretend belief is always easy. It's not just about slapping an affirmation on your mirror and chanting, "I am unstoppable," while brushing your teeth. Belief is a feeling you practice into being. And for a lot of us, it takes time. Here's where things get interesting. Your subconscious mind, which runs most of your life on autopilot, loves familiarity. Even if that familiarity sucks. If you're used to thinking things don't work out, your mind clings to that idea like a toddler with a blanket. So when you start introducing new beliefs, like "I can have what I want" or "life supports me," your system freaks out a little. This is why people often sabotage themselves. The belief starts to grow, and then, resistance. You procrastinate. You pick a fight. You decide now isn't the right time. It's not that your goal is wrong, it's that your subconscious is still calibrating. Here's something interesting. Hypnotherapy, which is now widely accepted in psychological treatment, works by bypassing the conscious mind and speaking directly to the subconscious. Therapists help clients rewrite inner scripts that have been on repeat for years. And it's not because the conscious mind is weak, it's just not the one steering most of the time. So what do you do when belief feels shaky? You make it smaller. You don't have to believe you'll win the lottery. But can you believe that small shifts are possible? That one opportunity might open this month? That someone new might reach out? Shrink the scope until the belief becomes manageable. Then, act as if you already trust it. This is known as the as-if principle, a psychological concept that says if you act as if something is true, your feelings and thoughts start to align with that behavior. You don't wait until you're confident to speak up in the meeting, you speak, and confidence follows. You don't wait until you're healed to date again, you date, and healing deepens. The behavior becomes the bridge to the belief. Here's a helpful trick. When doubt creeps in, ask yourself, what would I do right now if I fully believed this was working? Not tomorrow, not when you have more money or motivation, right now. That tiny action, one email sent, one boundary kept, one risk taken, becomes a vote for belief. And don't worry if doubt still shows up. It will. Doubt is part of being human. The trick isn't to eliminate it. The trick is to notice it without giving it the steering wheel. You're not aiming for blind faith. You're building earned trust. Little by little, as you show up and life starts to respond, even subtly, your belief strengthens. You don't have to scream your affirmation from the rooftops. You just need to whisper it with consistency. So tonight, let yourself off the hook for being unsure. Doubt doesn't cancel your desire. It just means you're in the middle of rewiring a lifetime of mental habits. That takes time, softness, and repetition. As you feel the weight of your body deepen into rest, ask yourself, where in my life am I holding the brake and the gas at the same time? What would it feel like to just trust a little more? Not perfectly. Not always. Just a little more than yesterday. Because when belief starts to win, even by an inch, the whole game changes. And from that foundation of trust, we'll ease into something even more hands-on, the tools you can use every day to anchor your intentions into your physical reality. You've been thinking the thoughts, feeling the feelings, tuning the frequency, and gently nudging belief to take the front seat. Now, it's time to get your hands a little dirty, figuratively, of course. Let's talk about the tools that give your intentions shape, texture, and traction in the physical world. Because here's the thing, you can believe in transformation all you want, but sometimes your brain and body need something tangible to hold on to. Something to see, touch, write, and interact with. That's where physical practices like vision boards, scripting, and visualization come in. They're not fluff. They're structure. Let's start with vision boards. Yes, the thing you might have glued magazine cutouts onto during that one New Year's party with the herbal tea and the woman named Moon. But don't let the glitter glue fool you. There's real psychology behind it. When you create a vision board, you're doing 3 important things. Clarifying what you want. Creating a visual reference point for your brain. Rehearsing the emotional experience of already having it. You're essentially training your reticular activating system and #40, remember that VIP doorman from earlier, and #41, to start scanning your world for images, conversations, and opportunities that match what you've pinned on the board. Here's something you might find surprising. In a study of athletes, those who combined physical training with visualization exercises performed significantly better than those who only trained physically. The mental rehearsal helps solidify neural pathways, making the physical response faster, smoother, more natural. That's what your vision board is doing. It's a static image of a dynamic future, rehearsed again and again until your nervous system says, "Ah, yes. This is familiar." Of course, a long-standing controversy surrounds whether these tools are creating external change or merely helping us notice what's already present. Critics argue that vision boards encourage passive dreaming rather than real-world action. But here's the twist: the most successful users of these tools don't stop at the board. They use it as a compass, not a substitute for movement. Now, let's talk about scripting. This is where things get cozy. Scripting means writing out your ideal life as if it's already happening. You're not journaling your hopes, you're narrating your reality in present tense. I wake up in a calm space that feels like mine. My mornings begin slowly, with soft light and gratitude. Work flows easily. I feel respected. Money arrives in unexpected ways. It feels indulgent at first, like writing a scene for a movie you wish you were in. But scripting, when done consistently, has a sneaky way of rewriting your subconscious narrative. You're teaching your brain to accept a new normal, not just as wishful thinking, but as something real enough to emotionally attach to. Just a quirky detail: some screenwriters and authors use scripting not to create stories, but to shift their own mindset. They write a few paragraphs each morning as if they're already the version of themselves who has clarity, flow, and success. One author credits scripting with breaking a long-term creative block. "I wrote myself out of it," she said, only half joking. Your brain, remember, doesn't do a great job of distinguishing imagined scenarios from real ones. So if you write with enough detail, your body will start to feel as if those things are already true. That feeling, yep, the same one we talked about earlier, is the emotional anchor that helps your intentions stick. Visualization works in a similar way. When you close your eyes and vividly imagine a desired outcome, whether it's finishing a project, meeting someone new, or just walking through a peaceful day, you activate the same brain regions used during the actual experience. Athletes, performers, CEOs, they all use visualization for one simple reason: it works. But here's where most people go wrong with visualization: they focus only on the outcome. The fancy car, the dream home, the standing ovation. But real transformation happens when you visualize the process, too. The small steps. The habits. The moment you choose the salad instead of the chips. The email you finally send. The one hard conversation you don't avoid. Because manifestation isn't magic, it's momentum. And visualizing small, repeatable moments builds it faster than grand, distant dreams. An odd but true fact: some Olympic coaches now assign daily visualization homework to their athletes. But they're told not just to imagine the gold medal, they're told to imagine the nerves, the sweat, the wobbles, the moment they nearly mess up but don't. Why? Because resilient visualization creates realistic confidence. So what does all this mean for you, lying here under the weight of the day, eyes getting heavy? It means your mind is a sandbox. And these tools, vision boards, scripting, visualization, are how you shape the castle. You don't need to get it perfect. You don't need to tape up 10 glossy travel ads and chant to the moon. You just need to start somewhere, with a sentence, a sketch, or a single mental image you return to every night. Maybe you script a few lines in the Notes app on your phone. Maybe you print a photo and tuck it into your wallet. Maybe you lie in bed and close your eyes and imagine walking through your ideal morning, right down to the smell of the soap. These tools work because they give your intention a place to land. A container. A home. They turn abstract desires into something you can see, feel, touch, hear. And once it feels real in the body, it starts feeling real in the world. Now, to be clear, this isn't about tricking yourself. It's about retraining yourself. You're not pretending. You're practicing. You're trying on the version of your life that wants to emerge. And every time you do, the neural pathways for that life get stronger. The possibility gets closer. So tonight, as your thoughts grow lighter and your body quieter, think about one tool you could gently introduce. Just one. A sentence to script. A picture to pin. A moment to visualize. Because sometimes, all your dream needs is one sticky note on the fridge saying, "This is where we're going." That level of tangible focus gently steers us into the next mystery of intention, when coincidences start showing up, and you wonder if the universe is actually whispering back. You're walking down the street, thinking about an old friend you haven't seen in years, and your phone buzzes. It's a text from them. No context, no warning, just, there they are. Or maybe you've been privately wondering if a new job opportunity might come your way, and suddenly someone you barely know mentions a company that's hiring, in your field, with the exact hours you've been dreaming about. Coincidence? Or something else? Let's open the door tonight to synchronicity. Those strange, often beautiful moments where the outside world seems to echo your inner thoughts like a mirror with perfect timing. You think it, and somehow, it shows up. These aren't always grand, life-changing events. Sometimes they're so subtle you almost miss them. But when you start paying attention, the pattern becomes hard to ignore. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who coined the term synchronicity, described it as a meaningful coincidence, when two or more events connect in a way that feels deeply significant, even if there's no clear cause and effect link. To Jung, these moments hinted at an underlying order to reality, something unseen but very real. Psychologists today still wrestle with that idea. The issue has sparked significant intellectual debate. Some argue that our brains are wired to find patterns, even when none exist. Others suggest there is a subconscious intelligence at work, connecting us to opportunities, people, and events in mysterious ways. It's one of those big questions no one can fully answer, but nearly everyone has felt. Research in cognitive psychology shows that people who expect to find meaning are more likely to notice these synchronistic moments. They pay attention to subtle details. They're more open to connections. It's not necessarily that more is happening to them, it's that they're seeing more of what's always been there. Your mind is a magnet for patterns. When your intentions are clear, you begin to notice the clues that align with them, little breadcrumbs the universe, or your subconscious, depending on your viewpoint, leaves behind. Ever lost something important, your keys, your glasses, and searched everywhere, only to find them later in a spot you'd already looked? Your eyes saw them. Your mind didn't register them. That's because attention is selective. You can only see what you're ready to perceive. So what happens when you really decide, to start looking for signs? Well, signs start showing up. Just a quirky detail. In one study on decision-making, people who had been primed to think about a question, like, should I change careers? Began noticing job-related words, images, and conversations with increased frequency over the next 48 hours. It was as if their reality tilted ever so slightly to answer the question they were carrying. But, and this is key, it wasn't magic. It was alignment. When your mind is clear, your perception sharpens. The clues were always there, you just weren't tuned to them. Now, here's the catch with synchronicity, it's not always loud. Sometimes it whispers. You might think of a certain phrase and then hear it on a podcast the next day. You might keep noticing a particular animal or symbol or song. The signs often repeat. They circle back. Not because the universe is shouting, but because you're finally listening. And of course, there remains considerable disagreement about whether the universe is consciously responding or if this is all the elegant work of your own highly intelligent unconscious mind. But really, does it matter which one it is? If the net result is that you feel more guided, more connected, more awake to possibility, then something is happening. Let's not forget, we're wired for story. When things align, even in small ways, it gives us the sense that we're not drifting aimlessly, that we're part of a thread, a path, a quiet unfolding. And that belief alone changes how we show up in the world. We become more trusting, more open, less afraid. You might find this helpful. If you're looking for signs, choose a symbol that resonates with you. Something that would catch your attention. A number. A word. A color. A specific object. Then hold it lightly in your awareness. You're not demanding a billboard in the sky, you're just saying, if there's something for me to notice, I'm open. People around the world have done this for centuries. In indigenous cultures, animal sightings are often interpreted as messages. In numerology, repeated numbers, like 1111 or 222, are seen as spiritual nudges. In modern spirituality, people speak of angel numbers, dream visitations, and intuitive hits. Are all of these real? That's not the point. The point is that you start to feel accompanied by your own life, rather than at war with it. Here's an odd but true story. In 2007, a woman in New York kept dreaming of a blue butterfly. She saw it in her dreams for a week straight. One day, walking through Manhattan, of all places, a live blue butterfly landed on her shoulder. She later found out the butterfly had escaped from a nearby botanical exhibit. Coincidence? Maybe. But for her, it was confirmation to trust a decision she'd been wrestling with for months. She made the leap. Her life changed. This isn't about chasing signs or obsessing over symbols. It's about soft awareness. A sense of play. You don't need to decode every license plate or cloud formation. You just stay tuned in enough to recognize when the outer world starts echoing your inner questions. So tonight, ask gently, what might life be trying to show me? Where have I been nudged lately? What little coincidence keeps looping back around? And if nothing comes to mind right away, that's fine too. Rest in the openness. The willingness to notice is already enough. Because when you begin to trust those small echoes, the quiet repetition of symbols, the right words at the right moment, the chance encounters, you start to believe, not in luck, but in rhythm. In timing. In connection. And that sensitivity to connection prepares you for something just as critical, staying grounded in intention even when the world around you is loud, chaotic, and trying to steal your focus. The world is loud. It doesn't ask for your attention, it grabs it, wrestles it to the ground, and demands your full participation in every notification, headline, ping, and urgent email marked with exclamation points. You want to live intentionally. You want to stay aligned, focused, present. But between doom-scrolling news, juggling relationships, work demands, and the modern plague that is group chats that never die, it's hard. This is the modern dilemma of intentional living, how to maintain your inner signal when the outside noise keeps getting louder. You probably already know this, but your brain was not designed for this level of stimulation. It's a Stone Age operating system running on 5G, and it's glitching. According to research, the average human attention span has dropped significantly over the past 2 decades. Some estimates say it's now less than that of a goldfish. Which seems rude to goldfish, but still, there's a point there. Your brain craves simplicity, repetition, meaning. But the digital world rewards distraction. Multitasking, as glorified as it sounds, is a myth. In psychology, it's called task switching, and every switch costs mental energy. So while you're checking your email, half listening to a podcast, refreshing your feed, and wondering what to eat, your ability to hold a clear intention quietly erodes. A study from the University of California found that it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds to fully return to a task after a distraction. That's right, just one little scroll break or message alert pulls you into a vortex that eats nearly half an hour of your clarity. And that's not just time, it's traction. Intention needs traction. And traction requires quiet. Not just external silence, but internal stillness. Without it, your attention drifts. Your goals become background noise. Your alignment blurs. There remains considerable disagreement about whether our current attention crisis is purely technological or also deeply cultural. Some scholars argue it's not the tools, it's how we use them. Others believe the entire architecture of modern life is now working against focus. Either way, the cost is real. So what can you do? You start reclaiming your attention like it's sacred currency, because it is. Wherever your attention goes, your energy follows. And wherever your energy goes, your life follows. You don't need to become a monk in the mountains. You just need moments of clean, intentional focus, small rituals that quiet the noise and amplify the signal. Here's how you do that. First, create mental, clean zones. These are places, times, or moments where you choose not to let distraction in. It could be your morning coffee, the first 10 minutes before bed, your daily walk, even just 5 undisturbed minutes in the shower. You designate that space as yours, no phone, no screen, no obligation. Just attention. Even micro-habits matter. Did you know that simply turning your phone to grayscale reduces its addictive pull? It makes your device less shiny, less tempting, less dopamine-fueled. It's a small change, but it helps you remember who's in charge. Second, anchor your intention in the body. When your mind is busy, drop into your physical form. Breathe deeply. Place a hand on your heart or stomach. Say your intention out loud. Feel what it feels like in your chest. That connection grounds the thought, quiets the static, and makes your intention real, not just mental. Just a quirky detail, in somatic psychology, it's widely recognized that the body holds intention faster than the mind. Practitioners often use gentle touch or movement, like tapping or swaying, to help clients stay focused and regulated. Your body isn't a sidekick. It's the main channel. Third, learn the art of gentle redirection. Your mind will wander. It's built to wander. That's not failure, it's the invitation. Each time you notice you've drifted into mental noise or distraction, simply redirect. No scolding. No shame. Just a soft return, right, this is what I care about. This is where I'm going. Meditation, at its core, is just the practice of that redirection. You think it's about clearing the mind, but really, it's about noticing the noise and returning anyway. That's what builds mental muscle. And you don't need an app or incense to do it. Just a breath. A pause. A choice. Here's an odd but true fact: monks in certain Tibetan traditions meditate not just in silence, but in the middle of chaotic markets or loud festivals, on purpose. They believe true presence isn't found in the absence of noise, but in the ability to remain still within it. Something to think about next time you're meditating while your neighbors start vacuuming. Fourth, curate your input. Your mind is a sponge, and it's soaking up everything you scroll past. Start noticing what you consume daily. The people you follow. The stories you repeat. The conversations you have. Are they aligning with your intentions, or pulling you further into worry, comparison, or fear? You don't have to go full hermit. But you can start shaping your input to match your output. If you're trying to manifest peace, stop watching content that sparks chaos. If you're calling in love, unfollow the memes that glorify detachment and petty revenge. It sounds silly, but your subconscious listens to everything. Fifth, let silence become a friend again. It might feel awkward at first. Boring, even. But inside silence, your inner voice gets clearer. Your intuition turns up the volume. And your intentions begin to glow again. So tonight, in the gentle dark, consider what noise has been taking up your mental space lately. What has been diluting your clarity, not just in your schedule, but in your spirit. You don't have to cancel everything. You just have to choose one small return to presence. A choice to pause. A few quiet minutes. A breath that doesn't lead to a to-do list. Because intentional living isn't a productivity system. It's a slow, steady return to what matters. A refusal to let the loudest thing in the room be the one that decides where your life goes next. And as that quiet takes root, you'll begin to notice something else: how the people around you, the ones you attract, the ones who stay, the ones who leave, are all reflecting the frequency you carry. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to draw in kindness, respect, and genuine connection wherever they go, while others constantly battle with conflict, drama, or disconnection? It's not always about charisma, luck, or how well they small talk. It often comes down to what psychologists and spiritual teachers alike call the mirror effect. Here's the quiet truth that stings just a little at first: other people often reflect back the energy you carry, the beliefs you hold, and the expectations you unconsciously project. Not always perfectly. Not always instantly. But consistently enough to notice, once you're willing to look. You teach people how to treat you, not by your words, but by the frequency of what you accept and what you expect. And that unspoken blueprint lives in your energy, your tone, your posture, your choices, even your silences. The mirror effect doesn't mean that everything someone does to you is your fault. It means that, quite often, the people you attract are responding to your internal state, mirroring your beliefs, your fears, your self-worth, and even your emotional blind spots. Just a quirky detail: in a study on interpersonal attraction, researchers found that people are more likely to feel connected to those who subtly mimic their body language. This unconscious mirroring builds trust and resonance. But the reverse is also true: when you consistently mirror anxiety, defensiveness, or emotional distance, others will too, even without realizing why. This dynamic plays out in romantic relationships, friendships, work environments, everywhere. You might be craving deep connection, but if you secretly believe people are flaky or that you're hard to love, that belief radiates from you. It shapes your tone. It influences your choices. And it subtly signals, "This is what I expect." A long-standing controversy surrounds whether we attract people based on vibrational alignment or simply due to psychological pattern repetition, reliving unresolved dynamics from childhood. In truth, it's probably both. Either way, the outcome is the same: your outer world starts to reflect your inner one. Here's something interesting from mainstream psychology. Attachment theory suggests that people unconsciously recreate emotional dynamics from early caregivers in their adult relationships. If you were raised in a home where love meant inconsistency or emotional distance, your nervous system may interpret chaos as normal, and safety as suspicious. So what happens when you shift your energy? When you begin to believe you're worthy of ease, kindness, and honest connection? The mirror changes. You start attracting people who treat you the way you've begun treating yourself. People who respect your time because you respect your time. People who value your voice because you no longer hide it. This isn't always instant, and it's not always comfortable. Sometimes, it means certain people fall away. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because their reflection no longer matches who you're becoming. You might find this surprising, but in several studies on workplace dynamics, researchers found that leaders who practiced self-awareness and emotional regulation consistently fostered more cooperative, productive teams, even when nothing else changed. The leader's internal alignment literally shifted the culture around them. Energy, remember, is contagious. Your calm invites calm. Your confidence invites trust. Your openness invites intimacy. Your boundaries invite respect. But let's not pretend this is easy. Changing the way you show up means confronting the places where you've accepted less than you deserve. It means noticing how often you shrink, apologize, overcompensate, or chase validation, without blaming others, but without bypassing the pain either. Here's an odd but true fact: in group therapy settings, it's been observed that once one person begins to speak vulnerably and authentically, the entire group shifts. What was once guarded becomes soft. The room synchronizes to the energy of truth. You have that power in your life. Not by controlling others, but by aligning with who you are without apology. That's when the mirrors around you begin to reflect something different. So how do you shift the reflection? Start with the question: what am I currently attracting, and what does that say about my internal state? It's not about shame. It's about clarity. If you keep attracting unavailable people, where are you unavailable to yourself? If your boundaries keep getting crossed, where are you crossing your own? If your friendships feel one-sided, where are you overgiving, overperforming, over-accommodating? It's tender work. It's slow work. But it's also deeply empowering. Because once you adjust the signal you're sending, the feedback loop starts to change. And here's something practical you can do: write a letter, not to another person, but from your future self to your present one. A self who's already surrounded by loving, respectful relationships. What would they say? How do they speak? What have they stopped tolerating? What have they allowed in that they once resisted? Scripting, remember, isn't just for money or goals. It's powerful for relationships too. You write the narrative before it happens, not to control others, but to show your mind and heart what's now available. And then, small acts of alignment. You say no when you want to. You pause before over-explaining. You speak kindly to yourself in moments of doubt. Those small shifts in self-treatment get mirrored faster than you think. Here's a grounding thought: you don't have to force people to see your worth. You just have to stop aligning with those who can't, and start reflecting your own back to yourself until someone else can match it. So tonight, as your body softens and your breath evens out, think of someone you feel drawn to right now. Ask yourself, what are they reflecting? What am I learning? What's the pattern here, and what's the invitation? Because every relationship, romantic, platonic, or otherwise, is a little mirror. And when you meet your own gaze with love, the mirrors that show up tend to get clearer, softer, and far more true. That mirror effect, so tied to self-image and programming, guides us naturally towards something deeper still: the power of your subconscious mind, and how it might be running the show without you even realizing it. Let's drift down a little deeper now, into the part of your mind you rarely hear but always feel, the subconscious. The quiet powerhouse. The shadowy storyteller. The part of you that never sleeps, never forgets, and absolutely insists on replaying the same emotional themes until you finally rewrite the script. If you've ever said, "I don't know why I keep ending up in the same situation," or "I know what I should do, but I can't seem to do it," then congratulations, you've just bumped into your subconscious mind at work. This is the operating system beneath the surface. It runs your habits, beliefs, memories, fears, and reflexes. It doesn't argue, question, or get sarcastic. It just accepts whatever you've repeated with enough emotion and consistency. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. If you've thought it enough, your subconscious will file it under facts. And here's the kicker: psychologists estimate that 90 to 95% of your behavior is driven by this subconscious layer. So when it comes to the law of attraction and the power of intention, the subconscious isn't just a side character, it's the director. So you can light every candle, chant every mantra, and design the most exquisite vision board, but if your subconscious still believes, "I don't deserve this," guess what's going to override your efforts? Yep. That. You might find this surprising, but research into neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, shows that even deeply held beliefs can be changed with repetition, visualization, and emotional reinforcement. Your brain isn't fixed. It's a living, flexible system that responds to the stories you tell it. But a long-standing controversy surrounds just how much the subconscious can be consciously accessed. Some experts believe tools like meditation and self-hypnosis can talk to the subconscious directly. Others argue that only therapeutic intervention can unlock those deeper beliefs. Either way, you have more access to that hidden layer than you think. Let's talk about how you programmed it in the first place. Most of your subconscious beliefs were formed before the age of 7. At that stage, your brain operates primarily in theta brainwave frequency, deeply receptive, almost hypnotic. You didn't filter the messages around you. You absorbed them. If you were praised only when you achieved, you learned that love is earned. If you were ignored unless you were helpful, you internalized that your needs don't matter. If you were surrounded by chaos, you began to crave it as normal. And now, all these years later, you might be unintentionally manifesting realities that mirror those early codes. Just a quirky detail: in one experiment, participants were shown words associated with aging, like retirement and Florida, without being told why. Afterward, they walked more slowly down the hallway than those who hadn't been exposed to those words. That's subconscious priming in action. You absorb, you respond, and you don't even realize it. So how do you shift the subconscious to work with you, not against you? First, repetition. Your subconscious loves repetition. It's how beliefs are formed. Not from dramatic speeches, but from small, repeated statements said with emotion. That's why affirmations work, if you believe them, or at least feel open to believing them. Start with phrases that feel just within reach, like, I'm open to receiving more ease, or, I'm learning to trust myself. Second, emotion. As we've said before, feelings are the glue that binds belief. When you repeat a statement with strong emotion, whether positive or negative, it sticks. So when you rehearse new thoughts, add feeling. Smile. Breathe. Let the body feel safe and engaged. That's how the new wiring begins. Third, visualization. Picture your desired reality not as a movie you watch, but as one you inhabit. You're not on the outside looking in, you're holding the steering wheel. Walk through your new job, your new morning, your new self. Touch the doorknob. Hear your voice speaking calmly. Smell your coffee. The more sensory details, the more real it becomes to the subconscious. Fourth, identity shifting. This is big. If you want to change your life, don't just change your goals, change who you believe you are. Start small. Instead of, I want to be healthy, say, I'm the kind of person who chooses to care for my body. Your subconscious acts in alignment with your identity. So upgrade the identity, and the behavior follows. You might be wondering, what about the stuff already stuck in there? The old fears, the limiting beliefs, the self-sabotaging patterns? That's where gentle awareness comes in. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to notice yourself. Begin to observe your emotional reactions like a scientist. When you feel anxious before trying something new, don't just power through, pause. Ask, what old belief is surfacing here? And is it still true? You're not your thoughts. You're the observer of them. That shift, from identification to observation, is the beginning of reprogramming. Here's something interesting. In cognitive therapy, a technique called thought diffusion helps clients detach from harmful beliefs by naming them. There's the I'm not good enough story again. By calling it a story instead of a fact, you loosen its grip. And as that grip loosens, something amazing happens, space opens. In that space, you get to insert new beliefs. Healthier stories. More aligned intentions. You start to manifest not from panic or desperation, but from wholeness. Here's an odd but true finding. In certain forms of EMDR therapy, used for trauma, reprocessing emotional memories through eye movement seems to help the brain update old beliefs. It's like giving the subconscious a new file to work with. You can't erase the past, but you can change the meaning you assign to it. So tonight, as your eyes get heavier and your thoughts soften, ask yourself gently, what old belief might be shaping my current reality? And what new belief would I like to grow in its place? Don't force it. Let it rise. Maybe it's a quiet shift from, I always mess this up, to, I'm learning how to show up differently. From, nothing ever works for me, to, I'm starting to believe good things can happen. From, I have to do it all alone, to, support is available, and I'm allowed to receive it. These aren't just sentences. They're keys. Keys to a different neural network, a different emotional pattern, a different future. And that future, the one you're reshaping from the inside out, requires not only belief and repetition, but also patience. Because some things take time. Not because you're doing it wrong, but because alignment unfolds at its own pace. And that leads us gently into the next realm, when things don't show up right away, and the universe seems to be taking its sweet, mysterious time. You've set your intention. You've visualized. You've cleaned up your inner language, tuned your energy, and even started noticing little synchronicities trickling in. But then, nothing. No big breakthrough. No dream job. No perfect partner showing up at the grocery store aisle next to the avocados. Just a lot of waiting, wondering, and occasionally whispering, seriously, what's the hold up? Welcome to the subtle, sacred lesson of divine timing, or, as psychology calls it, delayed gratification. This is the part where your trust gets tested. Not in a dramatic, movie scene kind of way, but in the slow, itchy, almost imperceptible drip of time passing without immediate reward. And make no mistake, this stage is just as much a part of the manifestation process as any vision board or affirmation. Because here, in the not yet, your belief is refined, strengthened, matured. You probably won't love this part, but it's also where the deepest shifts happen. In psychology, the classic marshmallow test comes to mind. Researchers placed a marshmallow in front of a child and told them they could either eat it now or wait 15 minutes and get 2. Years later, the kids who waited tended to have higher academic performance, better health outcomes, and more stable careers. Why? Because they'd learned to sit with the tension of wanting and waiting without giving up. That's the power of delayed gratification, the ability to hold on to your vision, even when reality hasn't caught up yet. And yet, a long-standing controversy surrounds this idea of waiting for the universe. Critics argue that it encourages passivity or magical thinking, hoping things will just fall into your lap without effort. But real intention isn't passive. It's participatory. It's a dance between taking aligned action and allowing time for things to unfold. Sometimes, the wait is life's way of organizing behind the scenes. You think nothing's happening, but you're being shifted, sharpened, softened, made ready. The partner you want? They might still be doing their own healing. The job you crave? Maybe it hasn't even been created yet. The house, the trip, the breakthrough, sometimes they're in the future for a reason. You might find this surprising. Neuroscientists have discovered that the brain's reward system is activated not just by getting what we want, but by the anticipation of it. That means your nervous system actually gets a positive charge when you believe something good is coming. Hope, it turns out, isn't just a feeling, it's a biological advantage. But only if you can stay in the space of hope without slipping into despair. And that's the challenge, isn't it? Holding the vision when it's been 6 months. A year. Maybe more. Still showing up, still believing, without forcing, faking, or spiraling. Here's something odd but true. In Taoist philosophy, there's a concept called Wu Wei, often translated as non-doing or effortless action. It's not about doing nothing. It's about doing only what's essential, and then stepping back, trusting that the flow of life will carry the rest. It's spiritual minimalism. And sometimes, it's the most powerful thing you can do. So what do you do in the waiting? You live inside the feeling of what you're creating, even before it arrives. You practice becoming the version of you who already has it. Not just occasionally, but daily. Even if only for a few moments at a time. You don't say, "Where is it?" You say, "I'm already in relationship with it." It's just arriving through time. That might sound a little woo-woo, but here's what it really means. You start acting, thinking, and feeling in ways that match the life you're calling in. If you're waiting on love, you fill your life with softness and presence now. If you're manifesting abundance, you treat your money with respect now, even if there's not much. If you're calling in peace, you stop saying yes to chaos. Because the universe, or your subconscious, or whatever word you prefer, doesn't respond to timelines. It responds to alignment. Here's something practical. Try scripting your thank you journal before the thing arrives. Write out, in detail, a thank you letter for the outcome you're still waiting on. Thank you for the job that challenges and excites me. Thank you for the quiet mornings in my new home. Thank you for the kind, steady love I now get to share. This does 2 things. It reminds your nervous system that what you desire is possible, and it keeps your frequency focused, not on the lack, but on the arrival. Just a quirky detail, research shows that gratitude, even imagined gratitude, can lower cortisol levels, boost immunity, and increase optimism. In other words, pretending to be thankful still makes you healthier. Now that's a placebo we can all get behind. Still, there will be moments when you feel discouraged. When you wonder if all this inner work is just mental gymnastics. When you question whether you're delusional for holding faith in something you can't yet see. That's okay. Doubt isn't disloyalty. It's a checkpoint. And every time you move through it with compassion rather than panic, you get stronger. You learn to say, "This doesn't look how I expected, but that doesn't mean it's not happening." You learn to say, I can rest here. I can breathe here. Even while I wait. You learn to say, if nothing changed tomorrow, I'd still be okay today. That's the sweet spot. Not needing the thing in order to be at peace. Wanting it, yes. Calling it in, yes. But not making your happiness dependent on it. Because that emotional independence? That's magnetic. So tonight, as your body softens into the rhythm of sleep, ask yourself gently, what would it feel like to trust the process, just a little more? What might be growing beneath the surface, even now, especially now? And as you ask, let yourself rest. Let the vision breathe. Let the timeline stretch. Because you're not behind. You're not forgotten. You're simply unfolding. And while you wait, you're not stagnant. You're in motion, inside. Your beliefs are becoming behavior. Your thoughts are becoming patterns. Your identity is taking shape. And that shaping, that quiet sculpting of reality from the inside out, leads directly into one of the most grounded forces of all, the psychological phenomenon of self-fulfilling prophecy. You've probably heard the phrase before, self-fulfilling prophecy. Maybe in a high school textbook. Maybe from a well-meaning friend telling you to think positive, or you'll jinx it. But what if I told you this concept, tucked away in psychology lectures and sociology papers, is actually one of the most practical, grounded explanations of how the law of attraction really works? At its core, a self-fulfilling prophecy is exactly what it sounds like, a belief or expectation that influences behavior in a way that causes the belief to come true. It's not mystical. It's mechanical. Think of it as your mental GPS. When you tell yourself where you're going, whether that's, I'm not good enough, or, I always figure things out, you begin to steer in that direction, often without realizing it. The concept first gained traction through the work of sociologist Robert Merton in the 1940s, but its roots go back much further. Teachers, coaches, parents, even strangers, all shape outcomes through what they expect from you. But the twist? You do it to yourself, too. All the time. Let's take a simple example. You walk into a room expecting people not to like you. So you avoid eye contact, you don't speak much, you keep your body tense, and guess what? People read that as distant, maybe even unfriendly. They don't engage. You leave, thinking, see? I knew they wouldn't like me. The prophecy fulfilled itself. Not because it was true, but because it felt true. A mainstream study in education, known as the Pygmalion effect, showed that when teachers were told certain students were likely to bloom academically, even if they weren't, the students performed better. Why? Because the teachers unknowingly gave them more attention, encouragement, and opportunity. The belief shaped the behavior. The behavior shaped the outcome. This effect works in reverse, too. It's called the golem effect, where low expectations lead to lower performance. When someone, even yourself, expects you to fail, it chips away at confidence, motivation, and eventually, results. There remains considerable disagreement about whether these outcomes are entirely psychological, or if belief itself contains some unmeasured energetic influence. But regardless of which camp you fall into, the impact is undeniable. Belief becomes behavior, behavior shapes reality. Just a quirky detail, a study on job applicants found that those who visualized being confident and well-received during interviews were rated more favorably, even when their answers weren't significantly different from others. The energy and belief they carried affected how they were perceived. That's not imagination. That's influence. So how do you harness this in your own life? Start by paying close attention to your inner narration. You have a running monologue, maybe more like a soap opera, going 24/7. What's the story you keep telling yourself about who you are, what you deserve, and what usually happens to people like you? If your narrative is, I never follow through, or things always fall apart for me, then your behavior starts subtly lining up with those scripts. You procrastinate. You self-sabotage. You miss deadlines or bail at the last minute. Not because you're lazy or doomed, but because you're unconsciously trying to stay consistent with your internal identity. The brain craves consistency. If there's a gap between who you say you are and how you behave, the brain will work to close it, either by changing the behavior or, more often, by reinforcing the old belief so your life continues to make sense. This is why identity level change is so powerful. When you shift from saying, "I'm trying to be healthy," to "I'm a healthy person learning what works for me," you begin to act like it. You shop differently. You eat with more awareness. You move because it feels good, not because you're punishing yourself. Your brain says, "Ah, this is who we are now," and starts wiring that identity into your habits. Here's something you can try. Before a challenging event, a meeting, a conversation, a creative risk, pause and ask, "What do I expect to happen?" Then ask, "What would I like to happen instead?" Write both answers down. Then spend 60 seconds imagining the desired outcome, not with magical thinking, but with grounded belief, the version of you who handles it well, the tone you want to carry, the feeling of finishing strong. This primes your nervous system. It cues your subconscious. And it quietly steers your behavior toward that future. Now, this isn't about lying to yourself. You don't need to pretend everything is perfect. You just need to tell a better story, one that still feels honest, but leans toward your power instead of your fear. An odd but true psychological trick? Using if-then planning makes your self-fulfilling prophecies more reliable. Instead of just saying, "I want to stay calm," say, "If I start feeling anxious, then I'll pause and take 3 slow breaths." This primes your brain for action instead of panic. It builds trust with yourself. Self-fulfilling prophecies also live in the energy you project to others. If you believe you'll be rejected, ignored, or overlooked, you carry that assumption into your tone, your choices, your boundaries. But if you believe you are worthy, magnetic, and valuable, even quietly, your presence shifts. You might not even notice it at first. But the way you stand, the way you speak, the way you enter a room, it starts to reflect the prophecy you're choosing. And others begin responding to that energy. So tonight, ask yourself softly, what prophecy am I living right now? Is it one I chose, or one I inherited? Because you don't have to keep predicting the same outcomes. You don't have to let an old story run your new chapter. You can start crafting a different expectation, and let your life slowly rise to meet it. And when it doesn't work right away, when you stumble, regress, or wonder if any of this is even helping, that's okay, too. Because the path of intention is not linear. It bends, it loops, it backtracks. And in the next part of our journey, we'll sit with what it feels like when things don't go as planned, when manifestation feels like it's failing, and the only thing you're attracting is confusion. There are days, maybe more than you'd like to admit, when you feel like you're doing everything right. You're visualizing. You're journaling. You've got affirmations taped to your mirror like motivational post-its from the universe. And still, nothing. Or worse, things seem to fall apart. The job goes to someone else. The date cancels. The opportunity fizzles. The bank account doesn't budge. You sit there, quietly wondering, am I broken? Am I doing this wrong? Is any of this real? This is the uncomfortable, unfiltered side of the law of attraction, the setbacks, the delays, the seeming contradictions. And they're not a sign that you failed, they're a sign that you're human. Here's the reality check that most manifestation advice skips: growth doesn't always feel good. Alignment doesn't always look like a straight line. Sometimes you ask for transformation, and the first thing that shows up is everything you need to let go of. A long-standing controversy surrounds the idea that bad experiences are self-attracted through negative thinking. Some critics argue this is harmful and dismissive, placing blame on people for their pain. And they're right to question it. Life is complex. Not everything is your fault. You're not responsible for every challenge, every loss, every storm. But, and here's the nuance, you are responsible for how you respond to those storms. And sometimes, those storms aren't punishment. They're preparation. You might find this surprising, but in positive psychology, there's a phenomenon known as post-traumatic growth. People who've endured serious adversity, loss, illness, betrayal, often report becoming more grateful, resilient, and spiritually connected afterward. Not because they wanted the hardship, but because they found meaning in the aftermath. Some researchers found that individuals who write about their setbacks, but include a redemptive ending, experience faster emotional healing. It's not the setback that defines the story. It's where you choose to end the sentence. So what do you do when manifestation seems to be failing? First, get honest about how you're measuring success. Are you looking for proof that it's working, or evidence that it's not? If you've already decided the universe is ignoring you, you'll subconsciously collect data to support that belief. That's not alignment, it's confirmation bias. Start asking a better question. What small shifts have I noticed, even if they don't look like the outcome I wanted? A lighter mood. A clearer thought. A better boundary. A peaceful moment. That's still movement. Second, stop trying to timeline the divine. Your mind loves schedules, milestones, charts. But your soul operates on rhythm, timing, seasons. Sometimes what you want isn't showing up yet because you're not quite ready to receive it, or because it's not ready to land. There's a difference between wanting something and being available for it. You might say you want love, but still flinch when someone gets close. You might dream of abundance, but carry guilt every time you spend money on yourself. You might crave success, but shrink every time someone praises your work. These aren't signs of failure. They're signs of misalignment. And misalignment is a fixable thing, once you notice it. Third, don't skip the emotions. Anger, grief, confusion, frustration, these are not manifestations gone wrong. They are information. They're the old layers coming to the surface to be cleared. You don't heal by ignoring them. You heal by letting them move through you. Here's something interesting. Emotion literally means energy in motion. When you suppress it, it stagnates. When you feel it, fully but safely, it releases. That's why crying feels like a storm, and also a release. Why journaling sometimes ends in unexpected clarity. Why talking to a friend isn't just venting, it's energetic digestion. And then, when you've honored what's real for you, recalibrate. Ask, what's true right now that I didn't see before? Ask, what part of me might need more care or clarity before this next chapter unfolds? Ask, what can I trust, even in this moment of doubt? You're not doing it wrong. You're just hitting the part where your intention meets resistance, and that's where real change begins. Let's be clear, the law of attraction isn't a magic spell. It's not a vending machine. It's a mirror and a magnet. It shows you what needs attention, and it brings what you're energetically aligned with. And sometimes, what you attract isn't the outcome, it's the lesson you need to unlock the outcome. An odd but true story, a woman spent months trying to manifest financial stability. Nothing changed. Then one day, she had a breakdown over a $40 parking ticket. Not because of the money, but because of what it represented, the shame she carried around never feeling safe. That breakdown became a breakthrough. She started treating herself with compassion instead of criticism. 6 weeks later, a job offer arrived, completely out of the blue. Coincidence? Maybe. But to her, the delay was the path. The failure forced her to change internally. And the shift that mattered most wasn't the job. It was the version of herself who could receive it. So tonight, if you're sitting in the ache of not yet, in the fog of, why hasn't it happened, or, what's wrong with me? Pause. Take a breath. You're not cursed. You're not forgotten. You're not broken. You're unfolding. Ask yourself, what am I learning in this stretch of discomfort? What new capacity is being built in me right now? And if you can't find the answer yet, that's okay. Sometimes, the answer doesn't come in words. Sometimes, it comes in softness. In stillness. In being willing to keep showing up even when the outcome is still hidden. Because what you're attracting isn't just a thing. It's a version of you that's strong enough to hold it. Steady enough to maintain it. present enough to notice it when it finally arrives. And when you reach that place, where you've done the work, aligned the energy, and cleared the space, there's only one thing left to do: surrender. But surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means letting go while still believing. And that's where we're heading next. You've done the visualizing. You've set the intentions, scripted the pages, repeated the affirmations, rewritten the inner dialogue, cleared out the emotional cobwebs, and maybe even cried into your tea more than once. You've asked, believed, maybe even received, just not in the form or timing you expected. And now you arrive at the most paradoxical, misunderstood, yet essential phase of manifestation. Surrender. Not giving up. Not walking away. Not dropping your desire like a hot potato and pretending you never wanted it in the first place. Surrender is not apathy. It's active trust. It's holding the vision without gripping it. It's wanting something deeply, while being okay whether or not it shows up in the exact package you imagined. Surrender says, I've done my part. Now I let the rest unfold, in its own way, in its own time. This kind of surrender is a muscle. It's also a practice in nervous system regulation. Because let's be honest, letting go of control is terrifying when control is the only thing that ever made you feel safe. You might find this surprising. In acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, a mainstream psychological model, surrender is baked into the healing process. Clients are taught not to eliminate difficult thoughts or feelings, but to accept them, stop fighting, and choose to act from a place of values instead of fear. It's not about winning the war in your head, it's about ending the war altogether. And the moment you stop wrestling with life, life starts to breathe differently around you. A long-standing debate surrounds whether surrender in manifestation contradicts intention. Critics ask, if I let go, won't I lose momentum? Won't the universe think I've changed my mind? But here's the deeper truth: surrender doesn't cancel the intention, it strengthens it. It means you trust it enough to stop micromanaging it. To stop checking the mailbox every 5 minutes. To stop interpreting every delay as denial. Studies have shown that people who practice mindfulness and release attachment to outcomes tend to experience more positive change over time, not less. Why? Because they reduce resistance. When you're not trying to control the how and when, you create space for new pathways to appear. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care deeply, and still choose to rest. Surrender is saying, I believe it's on the way. I just don't need to drive the delivery truck. So how do you surrender, practically? First, stop trying to earn what you've already asked for. Manifestation isn't a moral reward system. It's not Santa Claus for grown-ups. You don't have to deserve your desires by working until you collapse. Let wanting be enough. Let your existence be enough. Second, start acting like someone who already trusts. How would you move through your day if you believed it was all unfolding perfectly? How would you relax? What would you stop doing? What would you start enjoying? This doesn't mean dropping effort. It means dropping the strain. You still take action. But the action is rooted in inspiration, not desperation. Third, watch your energy around the desire. If thinking about it makes your chest tight, your jaw tense, and your stomach clench, it's time to take a break. That's not alignment, that's obsession. Surrender means creating distance between your desire and your survival. It means letting yourself be whole with or without it. And here's something that helps: give your desire somewhere else to land. Instead of begging it to show up, offer it back to life itself. Say, this or something better. Show me what I can't yet see. That sentence alone creates energetic flexibility. It opens doors you didn't even know existed. Because sometimes, what you think you want isn't quite what your soul is calling for. And surrender gives the deeper truth room to breathe. An odd but true metaphor from physics: in quantum mechanics, there's a principle called quantum tunneling, where particles can pass through barriers they seemingly shouldn't be able to. It's unpredictable. It doesn't make logical sense. And yet, it happens. Sometimes, life works the same way. Your job isn't to force the breakthrough. It's to hold the possibility, even when the path seems blocked. And while you wait, live. Go make art. Stretch your legs. Call someone you love. Sleep in. Drink your coffee slowly. Laugh at something dumb. Feel the sun on your skin like it's the first time. Because surrender doesn't just open space for manifestation. It opens space for presence. For being here. Now. You stop living in the someday. And you start finding magic in the moment. So tonight, if you've been holding on too tightly, clenching around a dream, trying to force clarity from the fog, breathe. Let it go. Not because you've given up, but because you've given over. To timing. To trust. To the quiet certainty that life knows what it's doing, even when you don't. As your mind settles and your body softens, let yourself say, I want this. I believe in this. And I don't need to chase it anymore. Because when you stop chasing, you make room for arrival. And now, it's time to wind down fully, because everything you've learned, everything you've practiced, everything you've become, is enough. Let's close with a final few moments of calm. Let's slow everything now. No more questions to ask. No more problems to solve. No more trying to get it right. You've done enough tonight. You're allowed to be soft now. To sink a little deeper into the quiet space between one thought and the next. There's nothing left to figure out. Nothing urgent. Just breath. Just rest. Let your body be heavy. Let your breath be unpolished. Let the gentle hush of this moment carry you further away from the noise of the day. You've carried so much. You've tried so hard. And even when it didn't feel like it was working, you were becoming. Quietly. Consistently. Piece by piece. All those little thoughts you planted, the feelings you practiced, the beliefs you dared to rewire, they mattered. They still do. The shifts might not shout. But they ripple. And ripple. And ripple. You're not just manifesting a new life. You're returning to who you were before the world told you to settle. You're remembering your softness. Your hope. Your power. So tonight, release the timeline. Release the how. Let the when be none of your business. You don't have to hold it all anymore. The universe heard you. Your body heard you. Your life is listening. Let yourself be held in that knowing. Float a little. Sigh a little. And trust that, even in this stillness, something beautiful is already on its way. No need to chase. Just rest. You've done your part.